Greetings, Skywatchers, and welcome to the sky above us. I'm James Albury, and I'm your tour guide to the night sky. You probably noticed I look a little different in this episode. Well, at the time we recorded this episode, the entire world was quarantined to prevent the spread of the 2019 SARS coronavirus. Therefore, to keep me and my production team physically distant, Eli created an animated version of me for the next few episodes. Think of me as a hologram communicating to you from a distant part of the galaxy. I always wanted to be a cartoon character. In this episode, we have an icy visitor approaching the sun. Venus is about to leave the evening sky, and the moon is going to have another conjunction with Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. What am I talking about? Let me show you. Many of you have heard of comets, but most of you have probably never seen one. Most artists' depictions of comets show them as huge, bright objects in the sky. In reality, most comets are very faint and seldom become bright enough to see with the naked eye. Every so often, though, when we discover that a potentially bright comet is heading this way, the astronomy world gets excited about it. The challenge is predicting how bright the comet will become and will it survive long enough for us to see it up close. To help you understand why this is, let me tell you a little bit about what a comet is. The word comet is a shortened version of the words cometes asteris, which means hairy star. Ancient people called them hairy stars because they look a lot like a star that has grown a long, wispy mane of hair. In the past, before we had light pollution, some comets' tails could be seen stretching all the way across the sky. Astrologically speaking, comets were not a good thing to see in the sky. The appearance of a comet was often considered a precursor of bad news, such as the death of a king or the fall of a kingdom. A comet is made of three parts: the coma, the tail, and the nucleus. The coma and tail are the obvious parts of the comet that we can see. The nucleus can be the size of a small city, although it looks small and is difficult to see, and the nucleus is where all the action is happening. If we zoom in on the coma, at its center is the nucleus, and it looks like a large icy rock. However, this is no ordinary rock. It is currently believed that comets originate from the outer edges of our solar system beyond the orbit of Neptune, and are leftovers from when the solar system formed. They're primarily made of rock, water ice, and frozen gases like methane, nitrogen, and ammonia. Occasionally, comets will fall inward towards the sun. Once they pass the orbits of Saturn and Jupiter, the heat from the sun causes the ice in the nucleus to melt, producing an atmosphere that surrounds the comet's nucleus. We call this the coma. Once the comet passes the orbit of Mars, the solar wind pushes the gases in the coma away from the nucleus, producing the characteristic tail of the comet. The tails of some comets have been known to stretch for millions of kilometers, often spanning the distance between the planets. In late December 2019, astronomers discovered a comet named C 2019-Y4, or more popularly, Comet ATLAS. ATLAS stands for Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. As the comet got closer to our part of the solar system, it got brighter and brighter. By the end of March, it was almost bright enough to be seen without using a telescope. That's when astronomers got excited. We thought we might finally get to see another bright comet in the sky. But alas, luck was not in our favor, and in early April 2020, Comet ATLAS went the way of many other comets such as Comet Schwarzmann-Watchman in 1995 and Comet ISON in 2013. It broke apart. This is because some comet nuclei are more ice than rock, and if the ice is the only thing holding it together, when it gets warm enough, everything starts to fall apart. So it looks like we won't get to see Comet ATLAS with the naked eye. However, if you have a telescope and a dark sky, you might be able to see what's left of it. So, let's see where it'll be in the sky. Okay, we have our sky set up for an hour after sunset on Thursday, May 7th, facing west. Venus will be in a very close conjunction with the star Elnath, a star that both Taurus the Bull and Auriga the Charioteer share in common. Venus is going to be leaving the evening sky in the next month, so make sure you enjoy it while you can. Comet ATLAS will form one corner of the right triangle formed by the star Capella, the brightest star in Auriga the Charioteer, and Myrfak, the brightest star in Perseus the Hero. Perseus is going to be very close to the northwestern horizon, but you should be able to catch a glimpse of Myrfak in the sunset twilight. If you draw an imaginary line northward from Capella and upward from Myrfak, the lines should converge almost perfectly on Comet ATLAS's position. Through a telescope, you might be able to see a disrupted clump of icy rocks surrounded by a fuzzy cloud. Yeah, it's not very exciting. But, as my dad says, you get what you pay for. Comet ATLAS will reach its closest point to Earth on May 23rd and the closest point to the Sun, which we call perihelion, on May 31st. Let's watch how Comet ATLAS moves over the next few nights. Here's May 9th, 11th, 13th, 15th, and 17th. Notice how Comet ATLAS is getting closer and closer to the horizon as it moves between Auriga and Perseus. On May 19th, we'll get to see the remains of Comet ATLAS in the morning and in the evening. If you look for it at 9 p.m. on the 19th, you'll see it very close to the horizon in Perseus. But if you go outside the next morning, on May 20th at around 5:40 a.m., you'll be able to see it rising in the northeast just below Perseus. The waning crescent moon will also be rising nearby on that day. Speaking of the moon, a few days before this, the moon cruises past the planets again. Let's check it out. Okay, we now have our time set to 5:30 a.m. on May 11th, facing southeast. High in the southeastern sky, you'll see the waning gibbous moon near the star Nunki in Sagittarius. Nearby, you'll also see the planets Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars among the stars of Capricornus the sea goat. Let's observe the moon over the next few nights. Here's the sky on the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Gosh, that was pretty. So take this opportunity to watch the moon visit the planets again, while you hunt for an icy clump of rocks as they fly toward the sun. And if you'd like to support our program, click on the Patreon link in the description, and you could qualify for an autographed The Sky Above Us t-shirt or poster, and possibly see your name in the credits of our next episode. Observing the stars is fun to do when you keep looking up.